And now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money?
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She's the outspoken host.
Judge Jeanine Pirro is dominating the headlines right now.
This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. I hope everyone is enjoying their Sunday morning. It's not so sunny here in New York City. It's raining. But as always, we are armed and ready to serve justice with all my great listeners here on the Red Apple Audio Network. So much has happened in America this week, but remember, it is Trump time, so the news moves very quickly. So let me go through a little bit of it before I get to my first guest this morning. The GOP won big in Florida, so those two House seats vacated by Waltz and Matt Gaetz are now being filled by Republicans. And so the Republicans maintain the majority in the House, but we lost that judge seat in Wisconsin, which was no surprise. We knew that that was going to happen. And right now we are in the midst of President Trump as he continues the tariff push. A lot going on where this past week the president came out and actually talked about how the United States is not being treated fairly by other countries that feel they have the right to put tariffs on our goods, but we don't have the right to put reciprocal tariffs on their goods. And it turns out that the president pretty much said, I'm only going to do 10%. And then he read a list of countries that are putting tariffs on us of like 40%, 50%, 60%. It is so unfair. And the president, I believe, has made it clear that, the whole point of his trying to get the reciprocal tariffs is to protect and reset the American economy. He's interested in making sure that the countries that have these incredibly high tariffs on us at least get some kind of tariffs on their products. And he's doing all this because he's trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And we've already seen that where companies have said, as opposed to paying tariffs, they'd rather start manufacturing in the United States. And, we've got to stop allowing other countries like Europe, stop treating them like they're third world countries, like they desperately need our help on this trade imbalance. They have economies. They can take care of themselves. And in the end, Donald Trump understands, because he's a New Yorker and he's a businessman, unlike the halfwit who was in the Oval Office before him, that the United States, folks, we are the world's biggest customer, the biggest consumer. But we pay more, which makes no sense. So think about it. If we buy in bulk, if we go to Costco or Sam's or some of these other places, we get a cheaper price. And yet we go out on the world market and we pay more because these other countries are leveraging us with these incredible tariffs. And what the president is doing, I think, is perfectly appropriate. And I think in the end that the president is making sure that we survive, that the American manufacturing segment of our country survives, and he's doing everything that he can to make things fair. And we've got a great guest who's going to be coming up, Charlie Gasparino from Fox News and Fox Business, who has been in the thick of investigating the tariff issue that everybody is so worried about. And I got to tell you, folks, I'm not so worried about it. As far as I'm concerned, The president is trying to level the playing field, trying to bring business back to the United States. And if you make your product in the United States, you don't pay a tariff. And it's really as simple as that. There will be short-term pain, but there will be long-term gain. And so don't panic and understand that right now we're going to be giving Americans the opportunity to start competing on a more level playing field. And that is my opening statement here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, Fox Business and Fox News senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino is going to join us, and I'm going to be asking him what's up with the tariffs. Coming up right here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Judge Jeanine.
Hi, I'm Jeanine Pirro, and this is Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Today, we're talking about the tariffs and protecting America's future. Let's talk about your future and your investments.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Joining us now is Fox Business and Fox News senior correspondent. He is someone who is not only well-versed in terms of the economy and Wall Street. I mean, he's got columns on this stuff. He is recognized as an expert, and I want to thank him for joining the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. And, of course, Charlie is someone who has been in the thick of this whole idea of imposing what the president calls reciprocal tariffs. And Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say one thing first. Now, to me, and I'm not an economist, the president wants to reset the American economy. There are countries that have higher tariffs on our goods, and it looks like he's just trying to level it out. And it's not even reciprocal in some cases. It's just like going back at them a little bit. What is all the hoopla about?
Well, you're absolutely right. The problem is that, listen, it kind of reminds me, I'm going to draw an analogy here, of what happened on the campuses, right? We allowed these colleges to go so woke for so long, to indoctrinate kids in all sorts of bizarre left-wing ideologies, attack Israel, attack America, that it got out of hand, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. That's until Trump came along and said, enough. and put a hold on it all, right?
Right.
Okay. And now all these colleges are going through sort of massive pain because of that.
Yeah, little penance for the sins.
Yeah. And now they're worried, they're freaking out, and doing this. Okay, so he's doing the same with a huge chunk of our economy. Now, instead of the colleges freaking out, you're having the markets freak out.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a potential for big businesses to freak out. The pain is a lot different to get to the goal. To get to the goal of college being less woke, the pain is on the colleges, right?
Right.
Who cares if Columbia doesn't, if they have to cut their budgets and stuff like that? And no one cares. But if corporate America has to adjust to tariffs, the pain is seen in the markets because they have to adjust to lower corporate earnings. But more than that, the pain is going to be on the American people to a certain extent until this gets settled in terms of higher inflation, because tariffs are generally inflationary. And on top of that, recession. You could have stagflation, what we had in the 70s.
What is stagflation, Charlie Gasparino?
When you have, at the same time, concomitant inflation and recession. Usually you have inflation and there's no recession. Right. The economy's going great, so people keep buying stuff and it sends prices up. Or you have a recession with no inflation because people aren't buying, so prices go down. This weird thing happens under certain circumstances when there's price shocks, like during the 1970s, the Arab oil embargo sent oil prices through the roof. That circulated through the economy. It caused people to stop buying stuff because oil was used and petroleum was used in so many products back then. It's not as much anymore. And that caused a recession. You had this weird economy in the 70s. We have a price shock scenario here where tariffs lead to inflation, right? Because imported goods cost more. It leads to recession because you can't sell as much stuff overseas, and including here, because people stop buying stuff because, already they're talking about a $10,000 increase in average car prices, right? So people stop buying cars. And they have to pass that along to consumers because you just, your profit margins are your profit margins. So
yeah, but wait, Charlie, let me ask you something. Okay, I'm going to buy an American car. I'm going to buy an Escalade. Right. What difference does it make if Donald Trump wants to say to China, in order to get our cars, or in order to sell your cars here, we're going to charge you a tariff? I'm still buying the Escalade. Explain this.
Right, but your Escalade is made with parts from wherever.
China. Got it.
I mean, it's just the way it's gone. It's the analogy is that we allowed these countries to take advantage of us. Mm-hmm. And allowed our big businesses to move overseas so much. It's like how we allowed the colleges to go so woke, right? It got out of hand, and now we're in a position where the medicine is really, I hate to put it like this because I'm a cancer survivor. It's kind of like chemotherapy.
Yeah, I got it. That makes two of us.
So it's rough. You're going to survive, but you got to get through that, and that's where we are right now. Now the question is, there's all sorts of political dynamics here, which comes into play. And by the way, Wall Street has told Trump about this. Trump, from what I understand, has assured, a lot of big business people that have spoken with him, these are supporters, that these are reciprocal, meaning if they come to the table, we're ready to deal.
Right.
He's the deal maker in chief. You know that. So don't put it past him. It could be like just a couple of quarters and then we're back to normal or better than normal.
Look at the countries that have caved already, Charlie Gasparino. You got Israel, Mexico, Canada, Vietnam. They all caved. They said, hey, you know what? As far as we're concerned, let's just forget it. And we're not gonna put these incredible tariffs on your products.
Well,
so,
I'm not
am I wrong?
I'm not quite sure about Mexico, but the other two are sort of minor trading partners. I think you need Europe to cave. I think you need China to cave. We're talking about these big markets that control a lot of global trade. You need parts of Asia to cave. Mm-hmm. You need Canada, Mexico to cave, which, listen, they probably all will. It's
Canada didn't they?
I think it's still up in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they have. But, getting there, Judge, is going to be messy. And, I was laughing at the tariff tantrums in the markets in the past. I don't know. You probably saw me on TV saying, okay, Wall Street, which made gazillions off of Joe Biden spending and all the stuff he did, all the stupid stuff. It skewed the economy to Wall Street and away from Main Street. Who cares, right? This is different in the sense that Main Street will pay some price for this. The question is, for how long will they pay that price? And if it's a short term paying the price, it's probably worth it to equalize these trade agreements. If it's long term, you're talking about an existential threat to the Trump, my view, and to a lot of people's views, to the Trump presidency, because you can't have stagflation going on for a year. I mean, we've got a midterms coming up, right? When is the midterms? Like in a year, right?
Yep.
I mean, so hopefully this is a puke, as they say.
Yeah,
Get it out of the system. He comes. They all cave. But the longer this goes on, the worse it gets.
I get that. But you know what? The way I look at it, as you say, cancer survivor, okay, you know, it's a problem and I got to deal with it, but I'm going to live. Here's the thing. If he's bringing manufacturing back to the United States, that's number one. Number two, the United States is the biggest consumer in the world. If we've got that leverage, hey, folks, we're the people who are buying your junk. If you want to sell this to us, you better recognize that our leverage is that we are big. We are the ones who are buying. And then there's another piece to it, and that is the national security. I don't want my pills being made in China. So if President Trump is saying, you know what? Tariff these people, make sure that they can't get their stuff to this country without an additional price on it. I think it's protecting me.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. And by the way, no, not at all. And by the way, what you got to respect about Trump, as opposed to Sleepy Joe, is that President, my euphemism, so to speak, it's not quite a euphemism for President Biden, but is that. He knows that we have strengths, and we are the United States of America. We're not coming to this party with both hands tied behind our back. We're not going to act that way.
Right.
Gotta love it. That said, getting there is going to be rough. By the way, I hate to say this though, there is a tendency on the right, a lot of my MAGA friends, to think we can be Fortress America, and that's better off. I don't think so. I think trade is better off. I think fair trade is better off.
Right.
Okay,
right.
The world we should be striving for is we have equal access to their markets in China. They have equal access to ours. That's our nirvana right there.
Right.
And if we can get that, America will be prosperous. There will be jobs coming back to the U.S. It will be high-paying jobs. Americans will be able to sell. American companies will be able to sell overseas. The Chinese won't be extracting their vig like a mafia don, like a bookmaker. Every time a company wants to do business over there, you got to give them intellectual secrets. And I think that's kind of what this could do. And that's what, you're not going to get that sort of thinking by looking at the market short term or even the economy short term. But it needs to be a goal. One thing I don't know, Judge, is that is Trump really looking for reciprocation? Or, when I hear Howard Lutnick talk about this, he's not talking about reciprocation. Now, he's the Commerce Secretary. He's not the President or the Treasury Secretary.
Right.
When I hear Scott Bessent talking about it, it's more in line with what Trump's saying about reciprocal.
Right.
And if this is truly reciprocal, I think it's a great thing for the economy. If the negotiations start like yesterday. And by the way, there's reasons why China should come to the table soon and Trump should go meet Xi. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, remember, two things are being tied up in this, and it's the oddest two things in the world. Well, one of them is pretty odd. Trump really wants to save TikTok. It's a Chinese company.
Yeah.
He needs China to buy into this, Xi to buy into this. So that's one reason why he wants a deal. And don't ask me why he wants a sale. He thinks TikTok helped him win the election. I wonder if that's true, just with the younger vote. But with any event,
well, there's no question that Donald Trump did better with the youth vote than Joe Biden did.
But he thinks it's because of TikTok, and maybe it is.
Well, look, Charlie, the truth is that you're an absolutist. I mean, you believe in, in the economy and making sure that, that the politicians do what's best for the economy. And so, I mean, it's not about politics for you. It's about the economy. And that's why I really wanted to have you on this morning. But I got to tell you, when I see someone like Donald Trump, who you and I are talking about the Panama Canal, and we're talking about, all of the European countries and China and everybody else and tariffs, manufacturing. He's brought in, how much money has he brought in from other countries to invest in this country? The guy's not even in office, 2 months and a week?
Yeah. Now, here's the counter argument to that.
Go.
That money is going to stop now because he's hitting all these countries.
More of Charlie Gasparino with Judge Jeanine Pirro on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show.
This episode is brought to you by Chevrolet. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Chevrolet Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Chevrolet.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only, highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
Click fast and save big. Shop Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale and elevate your space with new custom window treatments today. DIY or let our pros handle everything from measure to install. Blinds.com makes upgrading your home easy with free virtual consultations, honest pricing, and free samples delivered to your door. Shop confidently with our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Hurry to Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale now. Save up to 45% with minimum purchase plus a free measure. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're shipping Mother's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Visit a store today.
Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Life comes with big money questions. Is it better to max out your 401k or put more in a brokerage account? Does buying a home make financial sense in today's market? Should you use extra cash to pay off debt or invest? NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast has the answers. Their finance journalists break down investing and budgeting strategies to help you build wealth and navigate major financial decisions. Make smarter money moves. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast wherever you listen.
And now, back to Judge Jeanine Pirro's conversation with Charlie Gasparino on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show.
Good. Well, at least he got the money. And how many trillions did he get invested?
Who knows how much they continue? I mean, trust me, for every action, there's a reaction. And that's where this gets squirrely. You know what I'm saying? Listen, anybody that tells you they know exactly what's going to happen is nuts. I mean, I wouldn't believe them. I don't believe in, when you talk about absolutism, I don't believe that anybody absolutely can predict the future on this stuff. We're in uncharted territories. Okay. I do know that when I sat down with a bunch of free traders last night at a dinner at Ilio's in Manhattan, they all turned to me. They're all Wall Street guys. And they said, you know what? I didn't realize how much we were getting screwed on trade.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
All of them. They were like, what is this?
Yeah. And you know what? I got to tell you, your New York friends, Charlie, they're New Yorkers. They're in-your-face New Yorkers who are like, hey, I need a guy to go in there and say, no more, not another day of this nonsense.
Yeah, although when, they get laid off, the markets go down. What's it that, 100 points,
Anyway, Charlie Gasparino.
What the hell is he doing?
You know what? How about I bring it back in 2 months and we'll see how this thing goes. But I got to tell you, Charlie, I really respect you. I respect your opinion.
I'm hoping for the best. How's that?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping for the best, and I'm praying for the best. And in the end, you know what? I got to tell you, I'm like you, a cancer survivor. I'll take the pain because I want to live. And I want the American economy and the American manufacturers and all of those people in the heartland to have jobs. And you know what? If we got to suffer a little, so be it. But I could be wrong. Anyway, Charlie Gasparino.
Thanks, Judge. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Take care. Thank you. Charlie Gasparino, everybody. The guy's brilliant. He's no nonsense. And, we're still on shaky ground, but we'll see how it goes in the end. Please join me in welcoming Billy Hallowell to this show. He is a journalist, a commentator, a TV host. He's worked in media for more than 2 decades, and he's currently a journalist and host with CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network. He has a long history in journalism, but I am most fascinated by what he's been doing recently on investigating the supernatural or miracles. And I thought that it would be important as we approach the Easter holiday, I mean, we're still in Lent, obviously, to talk a little bit about religion and miracles and whether or not they happen and how we can kind of verify them. So, Billy Hallowell, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how did you get involved in investigating some of these miracles that you've heard about?
Yeah, over the years, I've covered a lot of stories, a lot of people claiming they've had miracles happen, and we hear these stories a lot. And so we were looking into how do we do a project that will sort of shed light on these claims while also really vetting them, going from sort of a 30,000-foot level deep down into the stories. And so we started a TV series on this topic, and as soon as we went out into the field, we were going to hit a number of different topics. Miracles was one of them. Once we started talking to people about their miracle stories and vetting them, and you know better than anyone what it takes to look at evidence. Once you start getting into that, you realize this is a feature film. It is not a TV series. And so we dove right in. And I'll tell you, what we found really shocked us.
Well, and so as you did this investigation, you made a decision to do some featured stories and that are actually shocking. How do you prove? Let's talk about some of these miracles and how you prove that they actually happen.
Yeah, and this is the thing, because people will say, "Well, can you prove 100% that a miracle has happened?" And I think the answer is no. You can get to 99.9%. You can get very close. And in these cases, we were able to get very, very close. One of the challenges is everybody says they've got a miracle. This happened, that happened. And, for Christians and people who are religious, they may feel that God has done something for them, but that doesn't always provide the evidence we need. It doesn't mean they're not miracles, but we needed to dig deep. And so one of the big things we spent a lot of time doing in investigating the supernatural miracles was looking at medical records, right? Because the medical records in these cases, every case we look at in the film, and there are about 4 cases that we explore, they are all medical miracle cases, meaning that somebody had a brain tumor that disappeared. That's one of the cases. That brain tumor was not treated. There was no medical treatment to that tumor, and it was gone. And so we had to start sort of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Of course, you find the people who experienced it, you talk with them, but you talk with doctors, you talk with experts, and you have to put the puzzle together. And once you do that, it becomes pretty remarkable when you're left with almost no other answers as to how something has happened.
Well, the interesting thing is you refer to a Dr. Joshua Brown indirectly. He was diagnosed with a fatal brain tumor, and there was no apparently effective medical treatment available. And he and his wife turned to prayer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so their story is really remarkable. They're both academics. He's a neuroscientist, right? So here's this young neuroscientist who ends up finding out he has this brain tumor. He's the one reading his own MRI scans. He sees it. He knows immediately there is no way that I'm going to survive this. There's no treatment. There are no medications, nothing. And so he's given this death sentence. And the two of them, they were churchgoers, but they didn't believe in miracles. And this is what's interesting. They set out on this quest, even though they didn't really believe in miracles, to try to find one. And they start going to all of these prayer events, and you can find these events all over the country. And they're going sort of event after event after event, since he can't do anything medically. And nothing's happening. He's not getting better. But the longer they go to these events, they start doing scans, and they start to realize that the tumor is not growing, that the tumor is starting to shrink. And, flashing forward, he ends up with only scar tissue. This tumor entirely vanishes, and the only thing that these two did was show up to prayer events, have people pray over him, and they ended up falling deep into belief in miracles, obviously. And what's really interesting about the two of them, this has sparked a whole journey now, because they are academics, of them actually investigating miracles from a scientific perspective, which we get into in the film.
And where is the film, Billy?
So you can actually watch this film at cbn.com/supernatural. It was a lot of fun, hopping around the country doing this, but I'll tell you, it challenged me a lot, because I get in my head a lot, and, I'm a Christian, but for me, I say I believe things, but when you start to see these stories, it really challenges how much do you really believe, because they're pretty incredible.
Well, one of the featured stories in this documentary is about a doctor who's a cardiologist, and he lost his own son to sickness, and he believed apparently that God's presence in his life after he lost his son intensified, and when one of his own patients suffered a massive heart attack, he was clinically dead. Now, dead is dead. What happened?
Yeah.
Tell the listeners. I'm fascinated by this.
This is the story that got me the most. So, before we go out in the field, we know what we're dealing with. We've vetted the stories, but we go in very skeptically still. It's sort of like, prove it to me. When somebody told me that there was a man who died for 40 minutes, clinically dead for 40 minutes, and was brought back to life, I was pretty skeptical. So we go out in the field, and the doctor, Dr. Chauncey Crandall, who you mentioned, I think it's important to start with his tragedy. His son, he and his wife, desperate to have children, couldn't have kids. They end up getting this miracle. They have twins. One of those twins, around age 12, is diagnosed with leukemia and given 2 weeks to live. And so they embark on this journey, and we unpack it in the film, of trying to save his life. He does end up passing away. And that leaves this doctor in a really interesting position of having to say, am I going to be angry at God, or am I going to lean into the belief that miracles are still possible? And he chooses the latter. And the reason that that's important is he happens to be working in the hospital when Jeff Markin, this other man, he didn't know him, has this heart attack and dies. Now, they're working on Jeff Markin for 40 minutes in the hospital. They declare him dead. And Chauncey Crandall is there, the doctor, and he leaves the room because they're going to bring the body to the morgue. As he's walking out of the room, and this is what's so interesting, and this happened about, I think, 2 years after his son died. As he's walking out of the room, he said he felt God tell him, go back and pray for that man. And, of course, he thought, that's absurd. I'm not going to do that. He keeps walking, and he felt prompted again, go back and pray. He turns back into the room and starts praying over this dead man's body that they're preparing to bring to the morgue. And you can imagine the nurses are like, this guy's crazy. What's he doing?
Yeah, he's flipped his lid. Yep.
Right, he flipped his lid. So he's praying over this body, and he tells the doctor, one of the other doctors, shock him one more time. And they say, if we do that, even if we got a heartbeat back, he would be brain dead. He's been dead for 40 minutes.
Oh, interesting.
So they shock him, and he gets an immediate heartbeat back, a perfect heartbeat. Within 2 days, this man wakes up, and we interviewed this man, Jeff Markin, in the documentary. He's completely fine, completely healthy, and he has a whole story of what happened to him during this time, too, near-death experience. We won't get into that now.
I'd love to. I have to tell you, Billy Hallowell, this stuff is really fascinating because your examples are with people who are scientists, who are medical doctors, who are neuroscientists, who certainly understand and are very, I should say, resistant to the concept of miracles and Christianity and, interfering with their very objective scientific analysis. But all of these stories point to something about faith in our society today. And you have been witness to all this, and you put together this phenomenal documentary. And there are so many more examples of things like this happening. And, how has this impacted you?
It has really impacted me. And I'll tell you, the thing that's happening now, and I'll tell people right now, if you go to my website, billyhallowell.com, and you go to the contact form, send me your miracle stories. I've been telling people, hey, I want to hear. My inbox has been flooded with stories of people who have had things like this happen, and they've never shared it, or because it feels weird to share it with people. So I've been encouraging people to share those with me. But As far as how it's impacted me, I went into this very much a Christian, believing that these things were possible, but I had never seen these things. I had never seen somebody, be paralyzed, get out of a wheelchair. That wasn't something. So, I had a framework for these things, believing them, but I hadn't experienced it or seen it. So the minute that I started getting into this, it really challenged me to say, well, first of all, if I were terminally ill or a friend or a loved one were, would I fight the way these people fought? And this is important. We didn't talk about this, but none of them got a miracle on the first try. It took 10 years for one of them. They fought. They went to all these prayer events. And so there's a lot to unpack there, but it made me think, would I have the same persistence? Would I fight as hard? And I think before the film, I wouldn't have. I would have kind of given up at some point and said, okay, God, my time is up. But I think now it really inspired me to think, the trust that you have to put in God and continue fighting and hoping for the miracle, even if you don't get it, hoping for it. They all did that. But it also, look, at the end of the day, I think those who want to dismiss these things and say they're not true, when you look at these cases, you're really left scratching your head then, because what was it that took the tumor away, that took the paralysis away? There has to be some causal factor there. And so as an investigative journalist, that's really compelling to me.
Well, yeah, and the cases that you pick are to analyze are cases that are so obviously unexplainable or inexplicable, I should say, based upon, medical research or scientific research as we know it. There's got to be other reasons for this. And, but what is the case that most shocked you before we go?
Yeah, I think, the one we talked about with Jeff Markin, but the other case that really shocked me was this man, Brian LaPoo, who was in a leg cast and in a wheelchair for 10 years in excruciating pain after breaking his neck, falling on the ice. And he was at a prayer event, and we have this in the film because it was actually captured on camera. And he was prayed over, and his hand for the first time opened up after 10 years of being clenched. He got out of his brace, and he walked out of that prayer event, and to this day is healthy and lives in New Jersey and is walking around and fine. And so that case was incredibly shocking.
You just gave me the chills, Billy Hallowell. It is just so incredible. I think that people down deep, have the capacity to believe this, but it's so beaten into us that unless there's a scientific, reason for something, we don't want to believe that there's anything else going on. But, the documentary that you've done and the over 14,000 stories on faith and culture and politics that you've done certainly have made a believer out of you. And so what is your hope ultimately in terms of the impact of this film?
I love that question. I want people to go over to cbn.com/supernatural, watch it. I want them to be challenged no matter where they are. If you don't believe in miracles, if you're an atheist, I still want you to go and watch it and be challenged. If you do believe in miracles, I want you to go and see that there is evidence. I think a lot of us assume that there isn't, right, even when we do believe. And so this film really will give you that backing, and we're hearing such amazing stories from people who are watching it and diving in. And so that's my ultimate hope is people find faith and they know that there is a backing for these claims.
Well, I got to tell you, Billy Hallowell, and you can follow Billy on X, formerly Twitter, at Billy Hallowell, HALLOWELL. You have some incredible stories to tell, investigating miracles, and that's what they are because they're inexplicable. Is, I think, so important and so relevant at this time. And folks, just so you know, Billy reminded me that he and I did a quick piece for which movie was it? Was it God's Not Dead?
It was A Light in the Dark. God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness. You and I were on a panel at your show at Fox. We played ourselves.
We played ourselves. Well, I got to tell you, Billy, what they do and on all those God's Not Dead franchise movies are incredible, and I think people should check them out as well during the religious holiday. It's so important for us to recognize that, you know what, not everything is just a product of science. So anyway, Billy Hallowell, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and God bless.
Thank you.
All right, Billy, take care. And up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Okay, now it's time for me to gavel out my closing argument. All right, well, you heard from two very different guests today. Charlie Gasparino, who's all about the numbers and objective analysis of the economy and the tariffs and what's going to happen or not going to happen. I got to tell you, folks, I think the most important thing is for everybody to stay focused and positive. It's not fair. It's just not fair. What's happened to us as Americans and what's been allowed to happen to us by those who sat in the Oval Office, who didn't care about the economy, didn't care about protecting manufacturing, the American worker, or making sure that Americans were on a level playing field with other countries, just wasn't right. And you've got a businessman, a president, who's saying, you know what, I could sit in this job and I could do what Joe Biden did and what a lot of other presidents did and just sit there and just, roll with it. Whatever they want to tariff us, it's fine. But that's not who President Donald Trump is. President Trump is a man who believes in making sure that America is strong. He has withstood incredible pushback, as you well know, to be in this position, and he's not going to waste time. He's been in office for just over 2 months, and what he has done is incredible. He is working on leveling the playing field with tariffs and reciprocal, and some of them are not even reciprocal. Some of these countries are putting tariffs to make it impossible for America to sell our goods in their countries. But we just let them sell their stuff here, no problem, no questions asked. That's got to end. That's got to end. Force them to bring their manufacturing back to the United States, and we won't put a tariff on their stuff. Let's make sure that we protect America because, folks, we are the biggest consumer in the world. We are the most powerful buyers in the world. And President Trump knows that. He knows how to leverage it. He knows how to protect the Americans and making sure that blue-collar workers, those in manufacturing, are protected. And we've got to stop allowing other countries to benefit like they're some kind of third world country and they need the ability, to have all kinds of benefits where they can sell to us, but we can't sell to them. And I believe that President Trump, in the end, is going to be shown to be the man who has made it clear that we're not going to take it anymore. Joe Biden can cause inflation and put billions into the economy, and trillions, I should say, and not give a damn about what happens. But Donald Trump is a different being. He's a different breed of man. So let's just everybody stay focused and stay positive, and it will hopefully be something that benefits us ultimately. And finally, I just want to say that it was great having Billy Hallowell on the show as a guest. This is a time that we think about, religion as we approach the Easter holiday, and the Christian Broadcast Network, and some of the miracles that Billy Hallowell has investigated were stunning. And I think if you go to CBN.com, you will get a real sense of what it's like investigating these things that are inexplicable medically and scientifically. Anyway, I can't believe we're out of time already, but make sure you join us right back here next week. Same time, same place for the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Have a great day, everyone. God bless and take care.